My name is Mickey Moore. I am the host of our conversational series, Run Life Today, where this year we aim to bring some engaging and authentic conversations to you with some inspiring individuals, teams, businesses, entrepreneurs, and volunteers. Giving them an opportunity to share their stories, their best practices, and some practical tips on how they best try to run life more than letting life run them. We will be talking about business, we'll be talking about fitness, we'll be talking about friends and family and faith, and also community involvement. Anytime you want to learn more about Run Life Today, please visit our website, runlifetoday.org. We do have our social media links there as well, Facebook and Instagram and YouTube. We appreciate you joining us today, and I'm excited for the first guest of the year to be somebody that I've known for quite a few years. And so let's get underway. This is somebody who is currently serving in our United States military, somewhat of an athlete. And when I say somewhat, maybe Olympic worthy, maybe soon, but definitely an FSU alum, which is the most important thing. So let me go ahead and bring in our guest today, Stan Linton. Hey, Stanley.
Hey, what's going on, Mickey?
How are you on the West Coast today?
Well, it's nice on the West Coast, perfect weather year round. I'm in sunny Monterey, California, and it's great place to train, great place to live, great place to be, and getting ready to start another quarter at Naval Postgraduate School tomorrow. And but I'm glad to be here, talking with you.
Thank you, man. You're gonna celebrate returning to another term by spending time with us. Awesome. All right. Well, look, let's go run through some questions here. And again, thanks for giving me time. And I do count you as a friend, and this means a lot that you spend the time with us today. So I know you, Stanley, but for the audience, let me kind of go back and let's focus first on some background things with you. Where you're from, share with everybody a little bit about maybe your family and your upbringing here in North Florida, if you don't mind.
Okay, so my family's been in North Florida and specifically Wakulla County for almost 200 years, starting back with my great grandpa, and most of my family's lived there ever since the 1830s. And so I was born in Tampa, actually, and then my parents moved back up to North Florida and Wakulla County, and that's where I grew up for my whole life, actually, until I went to college, where I only moved 30 minutes up north. But I started kind of not as a runner, and as how do I put this? I just grew up kind of being active, kind of being, loving life, trying to figure out where my place was in life. And I must have changed that mentality to what I wanted to be or who I wanted to be so many times until about high school. And then right around high school is when things really kind of converged to where they are now. And I kind of said, okay, this is kind of what I want to be in life. This is what I want to do. And this is, what I want to do long term. So I used to wrestle, and I thought I was going to be a wrestler in high school. And after the first year, that kind of fell by the wayside. There were different time commitments, and I couldn't always make practice. Yeah. And so I had to give up wrestling. But I always wanted to be active, wanted to do a sport. And I did. I joined junior ROTC in high school. That was a really, really big part of my high school life, was doing that and being very involved with that. And one thing that we did in junior ROTC was we would do a fitness test. We do a physical fitness test that mirrored what the Navy did. At the time, it was 2 minutes of sit-ups, 2 minutes of push-ups, and a 1.5 mile run. And I could get a perfect score on the sit-ups, perfect score on the push-ups, but I couldn't run. I couldn't get the perfect score on the run. And eventually I said, man, if I can just get a perfect score on the run, I could do really well. And So what I ended up doing was I joined the track team my freshman year. I only went out for one meet. I went to one meet my freshman year, and just kind of didn't go to practice or anything. So I wouldn't say that's when I officially joined. One of my friends said, "Hey, do you want to come to a track meet?" And I said, "Okay." Put on a uniform and did a couple events. The next year, in my sophomore year, is when I really got serious about running and stuff. And I ran cross country starting my sophomore year, and ran my first race. And everyone said, "Okay, don't go out too fast. Just do your own thing. But maybe you could be behind the 7th man or the 6th man on the team for your first race." And I ended up finishing that first cross country race as our first guy. So,
Nice.
so I went on to be, like that. From that point, I think that was in Tallahassee, I ran that meet. From that point on is when I realized that I was good at this, and I could be very good if I put my mind to it.
So
And yeah,
let me ask you a couple of questions real quick. There's a lot to unpack there already. Did you say you had siblings? Let me go back.
Yeah, I don't think I included so much of the personal stuff. Let me backtrack. Yeah, so I have one brother.
Okay.
His name is Jose, and 2 parents. They've been together for a long time.
Your brother older or younger?
He's 2 years older than I am. He was a baseball player, very good baseball player. Now he's more of on the musician side of things. He's a pretty good musician, and trying to start up some things and play some shows, and he's very good at that.
No, I guess that runs in the family, because I know I've seen you on a guitar a few times, playing some music.
Yeah, and myself, my brother, and my dad, we all play the guitar, which is pretty cool. We all learned separately though, which is kind of interesting. So like none of us taught the other, and we kind of all learned on our own. And but not just my dad and my brother, all different parts of my family, cousins and uncles, and all these people in our family are pretty musical. So
okay. So, and then I'm gonna pull too out of you a little bit about your high school relationship with Mr. Hoover. Because I have some insights there, but when it comes to your relationship with him, kind of share a brief story about who he is and what he means to you, if you don't mind.
Okay, so I first met Paul, would have been 2009. That's when I first met Paul, about almost 12 years ago. And, I kind of explained to him what I wanted to do, and he kind of saw me as, saw so much potential in me. But when I first met Paul, he was probably the first person that kind of, I don't know. It's kind of a weird way to describe Paul, because there's not a lot of people that you want to disappoint because of the fear of letting them down. So, for example, like let's say you have a coach or a father figure or someone that it coaches you, or let's say you're on their team and you let them down. Sometimes you're not so much afraid of letting them down because you want them to like you, or you don't want to disappoint them. You're afraid to let them down because you don't want something bad to happen to you. Mm-hmm. So that's what a lot of coaches, like for example, I played baseball and I never wanted to let the team down, or I didn't want the coach to like yell at me, or I didn't want like the coach to say, okay, you're going on the bench. So that's a big reason why kids, at least me and a lot of probably other kids, don't try to let down their coaches, because of kind of like the, not retribution, but kind of like the what would happen after that. Now, Paul was probably one of the first people that I didn't want to let down. And a lot of people will agree with me on this. A lot of teammates agree with me that the reason we don't want to let Paul down is because he means so much to us. Like, we didn't want to let him down because, we didn't want to, we didn't want to disappoint him. We didn't want him to make we didn't want him to feel bad because he made us feel so good,
Yeah.
you know? Yeah. And so when I first met Paul is when I first kind of understood that about him, was that he cared more about us than himself. And he cared much more about us than winning and, like how he'll look or something like that. It was just such a unique concept. So I was kind of like drawn to that. And that's definitely another reason why, I stuck with running and cross country and track, is because Paul meant so much to us. And yeah, especially, and I grew much closer to Paul over high school because I started to like running more, and there are many, instead of the kid who just went out to one track meet, I'd be the kid who come out to more of the track meets or more of the cross country meets. And then I'd run the road races, and then I'd meet Coach Hoover at his house at 5:30 a.m. or 6 a.m. to go drive to a road race, and we would go together, and he had so many stories to tell me and all these other different teammates I had, and we just loved it. And Paul was such a influential person in our lives, and I'm so happy. I mean, I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for Paul.
And, his, again, unfortunate passing, the way it all happened, I imagine you have great joy coming home and participating in his memorial race that they do, when you can, right? I imagine that's got to, put a smile on your face and a joy in your heart to participate. Am I right?
Well, I haven't been able to do the race in a long time. I've done the race. I don't think I did the race since it got changed, the name changed to the Paul Hoover Memorial Race. But I did the race before, when Paul was actually alive, and I think I do donate some money to it, even though I don't run it. But yeah, every time I have the opportunity to go home, one thing I definitely make sure I do, which is kind of a personal thing, is I make sure I go to the high school, because the high school has this great memorial to him. And, they named the track after Paul, which was that there wouldn't have been another person they could have named that track after that would have been more fitting, because no one was there more. No one spent more time there, and no one did more things there than Paul did, and so I go there. When I go back home, I make sure I go back to the high school, because there's a couple photos of Paul, and it's reminiscent of those good times that we had with Paul. So yeah, it means so much to do that.
So let's transition a little bit. So obviously, you're a good student in high school, you get into the running piece, and you're here locally, if you will, right? You get into Florida State University, and you were successful after a period of time. You walked on the track and field team, cross country team, and you got a scholarship, eventually made the team, right? And at the same time, I believe you joined ROTC at FSU as well, right?
Right. So out of high school, I had a few options coming out of high school, what I wanted to do or where I wanted. Alma mater. My dad went to University of South Florida. And so I applied there, got into there, applied to the Naval Academy, got into the Naval Academy, and I applied to FSU. And so I kind of had my pick of where I wanted to go, what I wanted to do. But there's two things I knew that I wanted out of college was I wanted to be a good runner, because at that point, running had consumed a large part of my life. I wanted to run in college. That was one of the things I wanted to do. And then two, I wanted to join the military. So whether that was go through ROTC in college or join or go to the academy, I wanted to come out of college being an officer in the military.
Wait. I gotta ask you, why the military though? Where'd that start? I mean, it had to be more than just test in high school, but what was the attraction to join the military?
I think a lot of my family, all my family members, whether that was cousins, uncles, or my dad, they were all kind of service oriented. My dad was a police officer for 20 plus years in Tampa. And I had a lot of uncles. I had a few uncles that were that served in World War II, that were in the Navy. And I had a couple of cousins that joined the Army. There was a lot of people in my family who joined. That was a big part. But through ROTC in high school, junior ROTC in high school, shows you so much that the military has to offer. And that's one of the things is junior ROTC doesn't really, it doesn't you're not necessarily, it's not necessarily that you do that because you want to join the military. You do junior ROTC to be a part of something, to give back to your community and be a good member of your community. That's what it promotes. But through ROTC, you do see a lot of what the military has to offer. And, for example, there's so many perks, such as seeing the world, getting to do things that are meaningful, and help a lot of people. And there's a lot of opportunities that the military provides you as well, such as, if you get an ROTC scholarship, then you can go to school for free, and that's nowadays when the tuition at these different schools and universities is so high. And lots of folks are going out of college with so much student loan debt. Yeah. That's a very attractive thing to, if you want to join the military and also you want to go to college, that's a great deal because someone's paying for your college for you to advance your career.
Or you could get scholarships ROTC and get a housing scholarship, because those are pretty good to have too, if I remember. But
that's right.
A little plug for the Scholarship Foundation. I had to throw that in there, right? So, okay, so you figured out on, I guess, military, and you want to be a runner, right? So in a brief way, how would you explain or describe your FSU experience? Because that's where you settled in. What comes to mind when you describe that experience?
No regrets. That's the first thing. Anytime I talk about FSU, there's no negative things I can think, that pop to my mind. It's always positive, no regrets. Should I went here? Should I done? There's none of that in my mind. And everything about it, just because it had everything that was meant for me there. I mean, and I had a great experience. Some days were tough and hard, but that's what develops you as a person, and that's what I think makes you a stronger person mentally and physically sometimes. But I think when I think about FSU, I think about how I'm so glad that I went there and how I have no regrets. And as far as my experience, though, it was busy, especially in the first 2 years, but definitely. While I was there, I was very busy, very busy doing one thing or another, just running or school or ROTC. I had a girlfriend for the first half, there were just things all over the place. And then you mix in the other college things that happen. You go to a football game, you go try to be active in the university and try to, do things that college students do, like, join clubs, or go to parties, or all this other stuff. So it's very busy time. But man, it was worth it. And like I said, no regrets.
Yeah. And again, I know you're proud of having graduated from Florida State University, and you're wearing your colors on the West Coast. And I like to wear the garnet and gold anywhere I go as well. So, all right. So graduation, when did you graduate? Was it 2018?
16. So well, technically, yeah. So, this is where it gets tricky. So I graduated, I finished my undergrad in 2016. I took a year off. And then 2017, I started an online master's program, and I graduated again, and the end of 2018. So December of 2018, actually 19, my bad. The end of 2019.
Okay.
Let me correct that.
That's why you got more time to run at FSU as well, right?
Yes. I was able to squeeze out the last bit of eligibility that I had at FSU, because I left when I graduated undergrad. I still had a year left of cross country, indoor and outdoor track. And, I kind of wanted to use that somehow. I didn't know how, but it ended up working out, and I was able to, finish out my eligibility as kind of like a fifth year senior. So.
And to compliment you too, we don't want to go over transcripts here, but I know you are an outstanding student, while you were doing all of these other things. So I don't want to dismiss that at all. You're a super bright young man when you're in college, and always polite and well respected. So I just want to make sure I give you kudos for that too. It's not just about the athletic side. This is about the fact that you could plan all of those things and be successful in all of those things. So, but eventually you headed out of town, and you've been Midwest and out West. So tell us kind of today, and thank you again for your service, but what are you doing in the military? What is your job now? And then I know you're still in, like you said, you're going to school still, but tell us a little bit about today's job that Stanley has.
Okay, so I'm designated as a human resources officer, and basically our job, if I was just to say it in one sentence, is our job is to man the fleet. So our job really is like a lot of numbers, a lot of working with people. We're the people behind the desk. We're not doing the very flashy pulling triggers or anything, but we're the people behind the desk, determining where should our sailors go, what should they do, how much should they get paid, and all these other factors, and how long should they be here? Should they go to this ship or that ship based on their qualifications? So a lot of numbers, a lot of data analysis. My last job, and my job changes every 2 or 3 years. So specifically what I do, like when I was in Iowa, I was in the Midwest, I worked at a military entrance processing station. And what I did there was, if anyone's familiar with MEPS, if you want to join the military, you see a recruiter, and if you want to enlist in the military, really, you see a recruiter, and they say, okay, well, sign your contract, and we'll take you to MEPS. And MEPS is where you get cleared to join the military, and that's essentially where I worked. And we did a lot of background checks and a lot of medical examinations to see if you're morally, physically, mentally fit to join the military. And at the end of the day at MEPS, you put your right hand, raise your right hand and repeat after me and swear in, and you're in the military. So that's where I worked. And now I'm on the West Coast. I'm at Naval Postgraduate School getting a degree in operations research, which is a big fancy, kind of phrase to say data analysis. So we work with a lot of numbers, and that's going to help whatever I do the next time, I'm in a desk behind a desk making decisions. I have no idea where I'm going next. I'm supposed to find out this month. As a shame that I don't know right now. I can't tell you, but I'll be probably most likely headed back to the East Coast in 9 months or 8 or 9 months, and have another job.
And if you go to Memphis, Beale Street, there's some good barbecue. You can go to Rendezvous.
Oh yeah. Some good music too. Some good soul music. Yeah, I've only been there a few times, but
yeah,
it's that's the place.
So let me kind of shift gears now that we talked a little bit about business, and I want to go back to running because again, not many people I know have qualified for the Olympic trials. So I'd be remiss if I didn't at least ask you about that experience from a what was the main obstacle and what was the biggest challenge to it, and what did it feel like when you crossed that finish line in 2020 running a 2:24 with 25 plus mile an hour winds in Atlanta on a hilly course, but still 91st place, right? I mean, at the Olympic trials, that's amazing. So I'm gonna throw that to you. Tell me what you want to tell me there.
Well, it's kind of hard to where to begin on this, just because, I came out of college knowing that I would switch to the roads. After college, I knew I was going to be a runner. I knew I was still going to be a runner. I knew I wasn't, ready to give it up because, I just knew that running is a sport of consistency, and the more years and more consistent blocks of training that you put, the better you're going to be. And it's time and consistency that makes you good. And so I knew that if I just kept on doing this for a few years, I would get much better, and I would kind of be where I'm at today. And I've always been kind of that long distance oriented runner, to where, I'm not very good over the short 100, 200, even 800 or mile distances, but anything over a mile and up, I can do pretty well. And so I naturally knew that I was going to be a half marathon or marathoner. And so I set that as my goal out of college, to lower those times down to qualify for the Olympic trials. And, everything just kind of fell into place, and everything, I ran Grandma's, and that was when in 2019 at Grandma's, that was going to be my race to see if I could go. And I put in the most consistent 6 months of training I think I've ever done. And, Grandma's was great. Everything went according to plan. I had splits, had goals for every single, every 6 miles or 5 miles, I had a goal. And every time I looked at my watch in that race, I was like, I'm going to do it. And, I got to mile 25, and I said, I'm still on pace. And all I need to do is stay on my feet, and I'm going to go to Atlanta, which is what happened. So switching gears to Atlanta, that was probably the best experience I'll have as a runner. And for anyone who wants to try to do that, doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to make an Olympic team, but anyone who wants to try to make it to, or fulfill their potential, or shoot for that goal. I just, I want to just tell you, it's so worth it. All of the years of training to try to do something like that, to try to make it to a race like that, even if you're not going to make it to an Olympics. That is kind of like the, opening night of a big movie or something. And you're the actors, about to see your movie on the big stage or something, and you're on the red carpet, and all these people are taking pictures of you and cheering for you and everything. And it's kind of like that, it's kind of like, you go there, and, you go to this race, and you check into the hotel, and you see all these people that you've run against, or see some of these people that have been to an Olympics, like Galen Rupp, or, Bernard Lagat, or all these people, and they're running against you. And it's just kind of like, a surreal experience. And, during that period of 2 or 3 days where you're there, just getting ready for the race, or getting ready for, it's just, there's always something going on. Like, hey, you got to go pick up a free pair of shoes here. Oh, you've got to go talk to a running store right here. Or you need to do, there's so much you have to do before the trial. It seems like it's just, man, this is like, a busy time as well. And then I guess switching to the race in general, I mean, you'll never get a race like that, where a marathon like that, where, there's, the 200 of the best marathoners in the country. And but there's crowds of people lined on both sides of the road in downtown Atlanta, and there's thousands of people cheering for you. And I don't know, it's just kind of like, I even just thinking about, even trying to like go back into that time is just kind of like, man, it's just so worth it. It's just, there's no regrets doing something like that. And yet you finish the race after a course like that, where, everywhere you turn, there's going to be a wind you have to run into, or no matter where you turn, there's going to be an uphill or a downhill, or a U-turn. There was a bunch of U-turns as well. And you're just thinking, man, this is why, this is the toughest race of them all, or the marathon. And on top of that, they have to make the course so hard. But it's just trying to expose who's willing to be that good to make it to the Olympics.
Yeah.
And yeah.
3 spots. And that's the, how the United States selects their runners is, it's the top 3 out of 200. So, and some of those folks are, I think that year they ran 208. Galen ran like a 208 or 209 on that course, which they just did in Arizona recently, a few runners too, total flat course. So you just never know. But having watched that, I couldn't have been more proud of somebody that was representing Gulf Winds Track Club in Atlanta in the Olympic trial. Now, before I get to, as I've told you and I've told our audience, the main reason we really are going through these conversations is to eventually allow, our guests who have been successful at, integrating so many different things in work and life, to share maybe some best practices, some practical tips with the group, with our listeners. But before I do that, I'm going to get your reaction first to a couple of photos I'm going to share, Stanley, and just, see what comes to mind. Let's see. So there's one. I think
Okay.
that's a handsome photo. Now, was that right when you joined, or is this?
That would have been probably within 2 years of when I joined, probably about a year and a half or so after I joined. Yeah.
Okay. So now I see the mustache is growing in a little bit. So
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Oh, that's a great one.
This, if I recall, I believe that's the Palace Run, right?
Yep. Palace Saloon 5K post race party, which is one of the best in Tallahassee. And I don't know, I've never been to too many post race parties like that. So
yeah. So the best picture for last, of course.
Oh yes, yeah, that's great. Yeah.
So
yeah, I got taken to the woodshed, back behind the woodshed that day by some older guys, and yeah, that was but yeah, it was a good moment because that kind of opens your eyes to what's possible in your later years.
Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, for some reason, I found that photo and I happened to recognize it. At the time, I was 40 and I ran a 1955K, and you were 16 at the time. So I took you down when you were 16. How about that?
At least, how about that? Yeah.
I think yeah. 25 seconds I got you that day. So it's just, I want people to understand that at some point they can compete with an Olympic trials qualifier, because I did. Albeit he was 16. If you could give anybody some advice on, doing their best in life versus letting life run them, and basically we know it's not 100% fixed. There's no science, there's no formula. We just got to give it our best try, because we can't control everything. But from somebody like you who has accomplished across so many different lanes of life, what are practical tips you could share today?
Well, I think the one message that my dad gave me when I was a kid that has stuck with me ever since I was a kid was, if you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything. And that was a line. And this is why Back to the Future, the movie, the 1985 movie Back to the Future, is my favorite movie of all time, because I used to watch it with my dad, and they would say that line in there 3 times. Marty McFly, Michael J. Fox said it, Christopher Lloyd said it. And at the end of the movie, they go back into the future, and, his parent, Michael J. Fox's parents in the movie are successful. And it's like, he hands him a book. He says, look, if you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything. And my dad has kind of echoed that in my mind since I was really little to even now. And so it's more of like the little engine that could. I think I can. Might be hard. Things might be hard. Things might take a long time to accomplish. But if you put your mind to it, if you become obsessed with something and never give up, and no matter what things around you look like, if there are so many things going wrong in your mind or around you, dwell on the positives. And that's another thing that I kind of tie into that is, you kind of have to be an optimist. I don't think I would be here if I wasn't an optimist, because, even though things might be tough, even though things might be hard, especially in the time we're doing right now, if you just keep going, and no matter what is going on around you, you need to surround you need to, really focus on the good things that are going on. Even if the best thing that's going on is that you got to see another day, dwell on that, because there's people who don't get to see another day. There are things that we can be grateful for, and that we think are silly, that other people would kill to have another day on earth, a plate of food on our table every night. And so we might get stressed with a lot of things, but how we deal with that stress is how we're going to move forward and become successful. And I don't know, I'm biased, but I guess the best way I deal with stress is on the run. So, that's kind of what I like to tell everyone, is that ever since high school, really, I think from high school on to now has been running has been awesome in my life, because no matter what I've been going through, I can always go on a run, and after the end of that run, I can feel in a much better state, and a much better, mentality, because, I got some exercise, I did a run, and I was able to think about things on that run. Maybe I was able to say, well, even though this is going on in my life, at least I got this going for me, right. And maybe this is a way I can, maybe someone said something to me that I didn't like, and then maybe I can, go for a run and say, well, why did they say that to me? Or maybe why, or how can I handle it better? Or how can I improve? Or, stuff like that. You think about things, and I think running is a great time for meditation. And so that's, and I think that is what helps me the most, on the mental side of things, is, what needs to be done to mitigate the stress. And usually how I figure that out is through meditation on the run. And so, to get back to your question, is everything is interconnected, as you can see here, that we first go up with okay, if you want a goal and you want, you have things in your life you want to be successful at, know that it's possible through hard work. And then the second thing is on your journey to accomplishing those goals, or doing the things that you want to be successful at, there might be challenging and tough times. But while there are times like that, I would just recommend you dwell on the positives, that, you don't concern yourself with the negative, because it's harder to keep going if you're just, trying to focus on the negative. All right. And the third thing is, a great way to address and focus on the positive and not dwell on the negative is through meditation. So as you can see, they're all interconnected, and so really it comes back to running at the very end, is the things that I like to accomplish. I think I have a lot of meditation. I can think about the positive. I can get through the negative times to accomplish my goals.
I'm with you. Thank you, Stanley. And look, believing it's possible, be positive, and meditate with active lifestyle, being active, right? Whether it be running or walking or riding a bike. You can find time to meditate. Running is how you do it. But as you know, we could talk forever about the benefits of exercise, what it does for you psychologically, emotionally, and right now, the mental health side of things. So, no, I think those are great tips, Stanley. Thank you.
Yeah. And you hit it right on the nail. It doesn't have to be running. You could go for a bike ride, you could go for a walk, you could drive somewhere where it's nice and quiet, perhaps maybe a trail, or, I go hike somewhere. There's tons of things that you can, where you can meditate on a drive home. Yeah, I mean, just, it doesn't have to be running, but that's the one that I choose for multiple reasons, is because I can meditate, and plus I need to get that run in if I'm going to keep, trying to be the best I can be in running. So
That's right.
Kill two birds with one stone.
That's right. Look, if you're going to be at the Olympic trials again, you got to keep running. So, yeah, thank you, Stanley, again for today, and spending quite a few minutes with us, and then also your story. And again, congratulations on your accomplishments. And I know there's many more things to come in your life, both personally and professionally. And thank you again for your service. And to our audience, again, anytime you want to learn more about Run Life Today, please visit our website, runlifetoday.org, and all of our social links are there as well. But until our next episode, we wish you well, and remember, do your best in running life more than life runs you. Stanley, take care.
Thanks, Mickey. Y'all have a great one.
All right, I'll see you later.